Hi, everybody. It's John Galante, president of AE Ventures, and I'm here with the second in our series of episodes that we're working with the Consumer Technology Association on the future of home technology. Now, the future of home technology is nowhere better represented physically than at the annual Consumer Electronics Show. And so we thought it was really appropriate to dedicate an episode to CES and help our builders and our multifamily company viewers understand a little bit more about this incredible event and how it can be of value to them. So I'm really excited to be joined today by three folks on the CTA team, and I'm going to take a point of personal indulgence. I actually worked here 29 to 26 years ago. I worked not in this building, but with the Consumer Technology Association before it was known as the Consumer Technology. I think it was a couple of brands ago. It's one of my favorite trade associations because it's very business-like and it really makes a difference. And CES is just one of the ways it makes a difference. It's also developing standards that help the industry connect products more efficiently and achieve new benchmarks of performance. Does a lot of work on Capitol Hill, interfacing with the federal government, the agencies, and the legislative branch to make sure that technology is well supported and flows through. And there are all sorts of other ways that innovation is driven through the Consumer Technology Association. But that's an aside. And so let's get to our panel today. With me, I have right next to me Katie O'Grady, who is, I'm going to let you explain your title and your role in just a second.
Sure.
And then I've got Rick Kowalski in the middle here and Jim Fellinger. So let's kick off with just 45 seconds or so on what you do for the organization.
Sure. I'm Katie O'Grady. I'm a communications specialist for executive and CES communications. I write a lot for our CEO, Gary Shapiro, and our president, Kinsey Fabrizio. So that's all social, everything leading up to CES.
And you've been here all of 3 months,
I've been
right?
here all of 3 months, but you would be surprised. You learn a lot in 3 months, especially when you're coming up to the world's biggest technology show.
Big three in the deep end.
Yeah.
All right. Rick, how about you?
Rick Kowalski, I'm Senior Director of Business Intelligence here at CTA. I work in our research department. So CTA organizes a lot of research studies for our members and digs into those new emerging technology topics. So I'm at the forefront of that and our forecasts. So predicting where the market's going to go in the next 5 years.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot. A lot of crystal ball gazing, huh?
Yes, definitely.
Very
A lot
good.
of predictions in Rick's world.
Yeah. Jim, how about you?
I am the Director of Industry Communications here at CES. If I had to describe that title in a nutshell, I would say it is my role to get to tell the amazing stories of our industry, particularly around our show at CES. I think this year we have an amazing show lined up. Particularly when it comes to some of the newest technologies, AI, other areas of emerging technology.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be excited about at this year's show.
Super duper. So let's start at the high level of what CES is. Let's try to help builders understand the size, shape, and scope of that animal, so to speak.
Sure.
Yeah.
So CES is the world's biggest and most powerful technology trade show. We have about 130,000 folks who come every year, industry professionals. You're looking at people from every industry in the tech sector. And then among those folks are about 4,300 exhibitors. And then on top of that, you've got around 1,400 startups. So I think the startups are really exciting because you get an idea of what's out there and what the newest tech is coming out of these really small outlets.
So 4,300 exhibitors.
4,300.
So point of comparison that our builder audience would understand, it's about 600 exhibitors at the International Builder Show, maybe 700. So you're 7x the size,
yeah.
at least in terms of the number of exhibitors.
Yeah, so it is a massive opportunity for connecting, for getting in touch with folks in your industry and in industries parallel to yours.
And it's not just a trade show, really,
No.
right? I mean, tell me what else it is, because this is a major forum for the media, for investment
Yes.
analysts, and that really changes the character of what goes on in
Right.
those exhibits, right?
So we've got plenty of different programs within CES. So you've got, of course, all the keynotes that are awesome and amazing. We've got NVIDIA, Accenture, Volvo Group. I really don't want to leave anyone out, but I'll give you guys a taste. Panasonic. And then we actually just announced today Sirius XM. And I think I got all of them, and I'm going to get in big trouble if I didn't. But
Okay.
anyway, so you've got these huge names that are giving keynotes, but on top of that, you've got Eureka Park, where all of the startups live. So that's an opportunity to get a view into who's there and who's new. Also,
You forgot Delta.
Delta
Airlines, okay.
Ed Bastian of Delta Airlines will also be there.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
See, I think when you talk about those different keynoters,
Mm-hmm.
you could see that we're talking about technology really broadly
Yeah.
conceived, right? And it could be in a car, it could be, I don't know what Delta's plays
Sure.
exactly in the consumer technology, but I'm sure they have them, right?
Yeah.
And some of this may be about customer experience, transformation that some of these big brands are doing, and some of it's about enabling technology like AI. But it's really the broadest conception you could have of technology and how it's changing people's lives. Right?
Yeah, it's about meeting people. I think one of the biggest parts of CES is the human component and getting to know folks and seeing who's there and seeing what's possible in the tech world. So it's a really great opportunity for folks in any industry, I would say, to get to know who they're working with and what they're working with.
Very good. That's a good kickoff for us. Now let's try to drill in a little deeper on some of across this broad horizon, some of the product categories that maybe are more familiar to builders or in their bailiwick in the here and now. Rick, I'm going to turn to you for this. And I don't know whether we want to start with smart home technology or whether we want to dig to smart appliances and the whole appliance category. Maybe we could bridge from smart home to
start smart home and how big it is. It's about a $21 billion industry in the U.S. alone. So we do expect some growth in that market in 2025, just as the home sales recovers a little bit. So at the show, there's a whole section of the CES show floor dedicated to smart home technology. Doesn't mean that's the only place you'll find it. You will find it throughout the show, whether it's in some of the hospitality suites where they can deck out a whole suite full of all the AV goodies and all the different appliances, or some of the larger booths in Central Hall where there's some of the biggest consumer technology brands in the world there, showing how all their various products work together. And those are, all the TVs, the home audio, the appliances that you're putting in the house, all the new features on each of those and how they interact. And
the big consumer electronics brands have plays that are either within a confined universe of their products and those closely related, or can reach out into other categories, right? Mm-hmm. We've got players like Samsung and their Smart Things line of products, which really gets to a broader set of ecosystem partnerships. Yeah. And those big brands are going to be showcasing that kind of smart home technology, correct?
Yeah, so all these larger players have been trying to figure out, how do you make everything interoperable? How are you setting up a situation so that a family can get into a home and they'll be able to set things up and everything works together seamlessly and all together. So each one of these brands has their way of thinking about that and how they're doing it. The great thing about CES is you're seeing all the various products in the home and how they can interact with one another, and how you're going to use possibly a TV as your hub for all those smart home features, and interacting with the different products in your home and how it all ties up together.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to my era at CTA, when it was CEA or SEMA. It was actually SEMA. It was a division of the Electronic Industries Alliance, SEMA. But there was a standard under development. So I feel like I'm doing old timer show. Like the first episode, we talked a lot about structured wiring, but the standard was CBus. And CBus, the company that was really pushing for CBus at the time was RCA, who was making TVs at the time. And I can't remember where that business landed, maybe in LG. But the idea was TV was going to be the UI for the connected home. And that dream hasn't gone away, and that reality hasn't gone away, right? There is a lot of functionality built into TVs and screens now.
Yeah, the TV is now a computer on your wall. It can do so much, and it's great. The technology is there to have it have various capabilities, whether it's you're tying together that smart home ecosystem. The ways you interact with that TV are different than you did in the past. You might even control it with gestures. So that's part of it. Had to go back to RCA because they will actually be at the show. There's actually going to be an RCA booth, so they do exist.
Will there be RCA connectors?
We'll have to see. But yeah, so the TV's there. You think about how that's changed over time. We're seeing TVs 80 inches plus now. Some are even 115 inches last time around. So we'll see bigger screens, and they really want to make these seamlessly fit into the home, and the very thin panel TVs though, but also they're thinking about products like the frame where it looks like a work of art when you're not using it. So they're thinking about how it fits into the decor of your home, while still serving all those functionalities.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say something I've said many times at our events. The Bureau of Labor Statistics does this American time use study, and so you could actually look at how much time is spent in a home. And the number one thing people do at home from a time spent perspective is sleep. And sleep's an underexploited category. You guys might have some sleep tech there. But the number one thing they do when they're conscious is watch TV. So builders, maybe you haven't had the trade relationships where you felt like it was important to show TVs in your model homes, or you didn't sell through and realize margin on it. But it's one of the top things that people do in their home, right? And if you want a prospective buyer, to imagine living in that home and you don't have a television experience, a high quality television experience, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. So this is the place for TV, right? And TV plus sound in terms of CES. If you wanted to see what's coming, what's here today, that's phenomenal. This is a place where you can see it.
Yeah, I think you get that whole home theater experience to see how that will look in the home. We've got companies like SVS, Pure Acoustics, Dolby will be showing rooms with their Atmos, showing off what you can do with sound and a really nice sound system now, and how that can look or sound in a home, so
talk to me more about that, about these audio formats, because the builders don't necessarily go and get these 9.1, 12.1, 12.3 demos. Where are we right now in terms of immersive sound?
Yeah, so the Dolby platform, some of the others are looking at spatial sound, so an object-oriented way of doing sound where you can place an object in the room, so to speak, in the audio space. So now you have movies starting to work this into their soundscape and working this in, so people have that in-depth experience. You're getting sounds from above, below. And not only that, some of the products that are out there now, going wireless, you're able to get those speakers in different spots in the home where you may not have in the past. So you can build out that home theater system and be a lot more flexible with how you do it in the home now. So that's a benefit.
Right, and some of these advanced immersive experiences are going to start in the high end, but they're going to make their way down, right? Just like we didn't have surround sound in the mainstream market, we didn't have subwoofers, we didn't have any of that, 20 years ago. Now that's really become mainstream experience.
Yeah.
So many of the same companies that we talked about with the smart home platforms and the TVs are also in the appliances category. Talk to me about what's going on with smart connected appliances.
Yeah, so more often than not, when you go to get your new appliance, you're going to see that it's connected somehow, and it's you can control it with an app. Consumers can more easily make different settings on those, customize it the way they need it. Tell them, say it's laundry. The other thing with that is they're more efficient than they used to be. So the manufacturers are building in new features that make it so it doesn't use as much energy, or it doesn't use as much detergent, or can see how much laundry you've got in the load and not use too much water. And so there's all these smart, efficient features built in now, as well as connectivity, so it can tell you what it's doing when you're not there.
Yeah. You also have hooks into information sources like recipes and groceries, and I know you guys have a ag tech, food to table sort of things, and there's integrations happening on this stuff, and you can see the early green shoots of this coming up. I think we're not quite at prime time here, but all the ingredients are, no pun intended, starting to fall in place for this information enriched kitchen experience, right?
Yeah.
With the appliances.
You've seen that built in, more displays in the home, or features on your oven or your fridge that tell you what ingredients you have in the fridge. So yeah, I've seen a lot more connectivity, not just in the major, but in the small appliances as well. So things people are putting on their countertop and all these different food preparation devices. Well, it might refrigerate and cook your food in the same device. So there's a lot of various features getting built into single devices throughout the home. So think about those types of.
What do our younger panelists feel about these technologies? I mean,
as long as I can watch TikTok on my fridge.
Of course. Well, look, I actually think we've touched on something.
That is so superficial.
I think we've touched on something really interesting here, though, which is you do have companies like John Deere at CES, and you do have home building companies, and there are connections in the technology world that aren't always obvious, but become a lot more obvious, particularly when you start to think about the investors that go to our show and how they make their decisions.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, and it's serendipity of
Right.
seeing things and being able to connect them, and this is some of these smart connected appliances a builder's going to see at the International Builder Show. So they're not going to see this whole ecosystem and be able to put together creative ideas for how stuff is coming together. And I think the other piece, that I know we wanted to talk about is the nature of the exhibits at the show being more about the advanced concept stuff, certainly state of the market stuff, but you're going to see more advanced concept level stuff because you've got folks showing off for investors and the media, right? And it might not be cooked for another 6 or 9 months or ever. But you get to see these advanced concepts at CES, which you're not going to see at IBS typically.
That is absolutely one of the most exciting parts about CES. There are so many shows that offer you the latest in technology available on the market today. CES's focus is about what's next. That's why it is such a hub for investors and for the next ideas, because it's all about what's around the bend, right? Most of the people in the industry know what's on the market. They know how to make connections. What people are trying to forecast is what's coming and where can I make investments? And that's what CES is all about. Another point that I think is really interesting that I want to touch on is we mentioned the serendipity that exists at the show, all the opportunities to make connections. A really important stat: the average executive at CES is going to have over 22 meetings in just 2 short days. That's, if you think about it, nearly a week's worth of productivity happening in the blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm. And they're in-person meetings.
And I think that, I think we all learned during the pandemic that there is a real difference between meeting over a Zoom call and meeting in person, right? Technology can be that bridge when necessary, but there's no substitute for having the opportunity to authentically meet somebody and share an idea and be able to build a connection that is just harder to build when you're over the phone, over video, trying to pitch a client across the country.
Build a connection, make an evaluation, right?
Make
It's the person talking to you, nervously tapping their foot under the desk while they're talking about a feature set that sounds fishy. There's so much information that's collected in person that you're not going to see on that box.
That's right. And well, one other thing that I think is particularly interesting about the show, one thing anecdotally that I think I found particularly fascinating, when I see the audio and the TV companies showing up to CES, how are they setting up their booths? Typically, they're trying to show you what a living room or a home in your house could look like if you have this technology, right? And that's where I think there's an opportunity to make that connection between the technology side and the folks who are involved in home building.
Well, and Rick, I'm going to issue a challenge to you and your research department. I want to know what percentage of large format TV sales are tied to a move.
Yeah.
My guess is it's 55 to 60%, because you're moving to a new space. You have different size of room. You're going to a new home or a resale home that's new to you. You don't want to bring your old TV along with you. So I want you guys to get that data point.
All right,
me,
we'll
okay?
look into that.
So energy is huge. There's been such a transformation of how we generate energy, how we use energy, and smarts being applied to it. How is that alive at CES?
Yeah, it's one of the categories we've seen grow the most. You're talking about an economy, it's getting electrified. And, there's just the momentum is there. No matter who's in the office, this economy
train ain't going back.
Yeah, this economy is going electric, one way or another. And we've seen a lot of firms at CES who are offering new battery solutions, new battery technologies. They're giving homeowners options to back up the power. We're seeing battery backup generators, ways to tap into solar and integrate that in your home. There's the whole EV charger installation. More and more people are driving electric, and they need that built in.
Yeah.
So you look at your whole home energy system has to be redefined for this electric economy, and so that's where we're seeing a lot of solutions.
Well, and mobile has been a big category for CES for years. Originally it was all this aftermarket electronics that the car makers didn't build. I'm going back to the old days. Car makers didn't build them in, then they started building them in. But now CES it has the electric vehicles themselves represented, right? So I think this is another differentiator versus a traditional home building show. You might see EV charging, you might see solar generation and storage and smart distribution, but you're not going to see these car connections like you do at CES, right? And there are really interesting integrations where the car can serve as the battery backup and the car is part of the energy ecosystem along with the home. So I think that's another differentiator that's key.
We've got a whole hall. West Hall is very devoted to electric vehicles, so it's a place.
So is that we've covered off-grid sustainable power solutions in this discussion or not?
There's plenty more. One thing I wanted to call out was hydrogen power. We're seeing hydrogen fuel cells and how that's actually getting used. We saw this 10, 15 years ago. These concepts of hydrogen power being used. And, you saw these little fuel cells, but this has grown to more solutions that could actually be used in a home, are being used for commercial purposes, not just for commercial buildings, but also commercial vehicles as well. So seeing more of that ecosystem build out. It's very early days for that, but it's another one of those energy sources to watch.
So it's not in the talking points here, but what about content? You guys have this, digital Hollywood or kind of next generation of content connection. Another thing at CES that you would never see at IBS, but what content is coming that's going to play on the AV and other devices, and how might that transform consumer experience? Do you have any insights on that piece?
Content's such a huge part of the whole consumer technology picture. So this is what people are doing on all those devices, right? They're consuming all sorts of content. I think video, audio, gaming are probably the big ones. We're seeing a lot of gaming at the show, not just your console gaming, but also in VR applications. So there's a whole section of the show devoted just to immersive experiences, but we also see that play out on these giant screens and how in those TVs they're more catered to consoles as well. So
is that a kid thing only, or are these Gen Zers and some of the younger Gen Ys gaming at the wazoo as well?
was just reviewing our gaming study, and there's millions of gamers of all ages in the U.S. So there's people like me who grew up with an Atari, so I still game. So, I mean, that's what
I do Pong.
Right. So you got Pong, you got your mobile games. People are, they love that interactive, engaging content. So gaming is definitely.
It's really something we have not addressed terribly much in new home construction is like gaming spaces or convertible home theater to gaming spaces. Probably a missed opportunity, something we should poke into more.
And CTA actually has market research coming up showing, and I think this is obvious to most people, that as the population ages, you have more and more people who are very familiar with video games, right? And considering gaming spaces as a part of the homes that they're moving into and building. So there's an enormous opportunity buried within that, particularly as these younger generations become the ones who are buying homes.
Yeah. Also not on the list, outdoor technology. What do you got going on there? And I was even thinking, is gaming are there gaming spaces outdoors? Are there ways of engineering? Because outdoor is such a huge trend in new home construction, right? It's like everyone wants the connectivity from indoor to outdoor, and they're bringing more and more furniture and just topping off, a deck outside because people want the fresh air. They want to escape from their work from home. And what's going on with outdoor technology? I'm sure it's there with all your big AV guys, right?
Yeah, so there's a lot of outdoor displays. We get a lot of questions at that here at CTA. What's that market like? And more and more people want that outdoors. They want something to entertain out in their patio. There's also, thinking about some of the other, maintaining that outdoor space. You have, robotic lawnmowers and robotic pool cleaners and other things that automate the outdoor, just maintaining that outdoor space.
Automated
lighting,
irrigation's huge, sprinklers. We plant all these things. We've got to keep them alive and without emptying the reservoir at the same time.
Yeah, and being smart about, when it did rain, you don't have to water as much, and when it doesn't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I think we covered a big landscape on the product side of things. So let's get practical about, how could a builder take advantage of this? What would an attendee experience for a builder? What would that look like? Jim,
well,
can you?
I think
take your best guess.
I will take my best guess.
I will tell you whether you're on target or not.
I love that. I think in addition to having the opportunity to build the in-person personal connections, there's also the fact that CES represents such a wide portion of the technology industry. And as we're talking about all these different facets of home building, outdoor home, connected technology, it's clear that there are a lot of players in this space. And so it's valuable to be at CES because you have the largest companies from across the ecosystem there with staff going from exhibit to exhibit to exhibit, looking for that next idea. So from a builder's perspective, you are getting exposed to the largest investor audience possible within the technology industry at our show. There really is no hub like CES in the technology industry. There is just so much that occurs within the span of 72 hours in a small space. It really can't be matched anywhere else.
I feel a 2026 builder keynote coming on.
And I think that could be fantastic. And frankly, I don't see why that wouldn't happen, right? So let's look at some of the companies who have keynoted in the past that might catch people by surprise. Abbott Health, John Deere, right? I don't see any reason that a construction company wouldn't be at the forefront of this. We actually have a saying at CES that we love to use. Every industry is the technology industry now. And this is really true when you think about it. There is no industry that is not touched by technology in a significant way. And obviously that is especially true in home building. So I couldn't think of a better place to be, frankly, if you're in the home building industry, than surrounded by all of the technology companies that are looking to integrate into what you are doing.
And what kind of tool sets does a builder who's looking to attend, what do they have to, it's such a big show, right? Like how can they efficiently kind of map their way through it? Because some things are going to be applicable, some things obviously aren't. What kind of tools do they have online to do it?
One thing that we often hear from people who attend the show is it's impossible to see everything. And that's certainly true. With a show of that size, you cannot see it all.
Don't walk the show. You don't walk the whole show.
That's absolutely right.
Unless you want to go out on a stretcher.
That is 100% correct, or wear very comfortable shoes.
I like to say I haven't used my epidural yet.
There you go. There you go. Part of what I think makes CES a great spot for investors to view different verticals of the industry is the way the show is laid out, right? So we're not just sticking health companies next to construction companies, next to agriculture, right? We are being really thoughtful about how we are facilitating interaction between different areas of the show. So if you go to the show as a home builder, there is going to be a portion of the show that is very clearly for you. But the opportunity that exists outside of that is to go explore those different portions of the industry where you can find those connections. So you have your ecosystem, you have your world, so to speak, your investors, but you also have an opportunity to look beyond.
So you have some sections that are going to be most likely relevant, and then you have a online directory tool where you can do some shopping in addition.
That's right. In addition to that, you can always utilize our app, which is the easiest way to say, hey, I'm looking for this company. I'm going to type their name in. I'm going to figure out where they are and how to get there.
And you do an awards program on innovative products too. And would that be like a place where builders could hunt through for stuff that's on the cutting edge and is really receive some recognition? And like who does the evaluation of the award-winning?
That's a great question. We actually have a pretty thorough process for establishing who the winners and who the nominees for that program are. But ultimately, the decisions are made by a panel of judges who all have a media background. So either current reporters, former reporters, all people who have covered technology extensively and have some expertise to offer.
Yep.
And I think in addition to programs like the Innovation Awards program, I think it's also really worth looking at the conference programming that we offer, because there is a significant amount of conference programming that we host focused not only on construction technology, but other very similar categories. These are great places to make connections with the people in your industry.
And you mentioned AI, but we didn't really dig into it. I know we've got the CEO, founder of NVIDIA.
That is correct,
One of the keynoters, and I'm sure there'll be news broken. But AI is all about how it's applied, right? Mm-hmm. And there's so many different ways it could be applied, but I think we'll be able to get a view at a high level at what some of the functionality is that's emerging, and maybe even what some of the winning killer app. Remember killer apps? I haven't heard that one in a long time, but what are some of the killer apps of on AI? We'll be hearing about that.
It's funny you say that, because that's where we are with AI right now. It's where we were with apps about 10, 15 years ago is this explosion of all these different ways to use it. And there's not a single company at CES who won't be talking about how they're using AI, especially in the smart home space, how that's being used both in the cloud to help make the connections in those systems and make different actions and decisions based on smart home security, things like that.
A lot of customer experience, ownership experience improvement.
Yeah, you got
applications on the AI side of things right now in the smart home realm.
Yeah, digital assistants getting smarter, easier to interact with. You've got, like I said, that gesture control, different recognition features that help you, interact with your system. So a lot of intelligence at the show.
Very, very cool. Well, we're going to put up the website information and such so that any builders or multifamily companies who are interested in attending the event or exploring attending the event can do so efficiently. I want to thank you all for your time today. Did a great job explaining. I know everybody was a little nervous about this one, but I hope it was enjoyable. You did convey some great information that I think will be helpful.
Great.
That's it for this time. See you next time.